Good evening, everybody, and welcome back. It was a good month off, and I had a lot of things going on, so it was really nice to have a break. But tonight, I am so excited, and as you can see, Hallie has already joined me. Um, it, I love bringing authors that I haven't met before because I get to learn about you, Hallie, and so does the audience, and I love that. So, and I'm going to start right out, and then we're going to ask you the first question. But I loved your book.
Thank you. This is getting
Uh,
such great reviews. I'm just
Good.
excited. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad to hear that because it's a very interesting book. So tell us a little bit about Honor Bound. Um, you know, um, tell us the characters and such.
So it's book one in a series about a Special Forces A team. And so the first book is Captain Rick Norton, who is the team leader. His nickname is Daddy. And his team is in a fictional African country, Katangala, that is under attack by a warlord. And so the legitimate government of Katangala is a friend of the United States. And so Rick's team is there to suppress the warlord. And Cynthia Myers is a medical missionary who is in a remote village in that country. And she gets in the way of the warlord, and they find out that she is the vice president's daughter. And so she becomes his mission, extracting her from the village, but she doesn't like him and she doesn't want to go. And she's a pacifist and she hates weapons and war and just wants to stay in her village and treat her villagers. And she resents every second in the jungle having to be taken away. And thus begins their romance.
Yes, because everybody starts in the jungles of Africa. I do want to ask a question about you said the name of the country. It wasn't how I pronounced it. Could you say it again for me?
Katangala.
Katangala. Okay. I'll try to remember that. So was it based on like a certain country in Africa then, or did you just kind of do research and kind of piece it together?
So when I created the politics of the region and almost the geography, I patterned it after the Congo.
Oh, sure. Okay.
It's such a huge country there's room for what I had going on to happen. And the politics in the Congo tend to be kind of chaotic, and it fit, but I didn't want to use a realistic country because we're in a military mission in it. And I tend to write realistic. So if our military isn't there, then I'm not going to put them there because that would be unrealistic. And so I wanted to have something where I had room to work.
Okay. Well, that makes sense. And it worked very well because I had to remind myself that it wasn't a real country a couple times because I kept thinking, oh, I wonder if, and then I'm like, okay, that's not a real country. Stop that.
Yeah.
So you did a good job with that. So, and I really, because there was a couple things too when you're talking about the jungle of Africa and this, and so I had to go and look that up and figure out what that looked like and such. So yeah, you did a lot of research there. That worked out really well. So, and I know I said this to you earlier. I love Cynthia. I loved her because she didn't let the guys do her job.
Yeah.
She knew what she was good at, and she was very good at it. So
Yeah.
I appreciate authors that write realistic characters like that. So thank you for that. So I appreciate it. So, and I know we talked about it a little bit. You brought it up. This is book one of a 3-book series that are coming out in 3 months, all back to back to back.
The first Tuesday of September, October, and November. Yeah.
How much work is that?
It was a lot of work, like at one time, because I signed the contract with Revell July of 2020. Okay. And I had 2 books I had to write before I could get started on theirs because I was in the middle of a series. Oh. And so I had to finish that series, and then I had to write their 3 books that were all due on September 1st of 2021. So from July of 2020 to September of 2021, I wrote 5 full-length novels and 2 novellas.
Wow,
Um,
wow,
And so
wow.
it was just like this super, super, super busy season in the midst of like this lack of creativity caused from COVID. So there was just this like this pressure to write that I didn't normally feel, and to not fail. Like I had this pressure to not fail.
Yeah,
So
now, go ahead.
yeah. And so then like as I was finishing the third one and getting everything to them, the edits started coming in from the first one. And it was like I had about a year of just this roll of edit, release, edit, release, edit, release. And then the next round of edits came, and it was just this kind of chaotic time. But it was wonderful because then it all got done. Right.
Yeah.
Now I just get to release them all.
Yeah, and are you ready for the series to be, I can't say done because obviously they're still releasing, so done isn't, but complete for you? Are you like, I don't want to hear these characters again?
Well, I plan on writing another one
Oh,
with
okay.
these same characters, right? I'm gonna give them a fun conclusion.
Yay.
And I'm gonna put them on a cruise ship and let pirates take the ship and have it be a really bad day for the pirates. So that's the plan.
Yeah.
But then I have another series already plotted out that will be another special forces team there will be some characters that will probably come from this team and be on that team. And so I'm excited about that one because this one is military, then military FBI, and then military civilian. And this will all be military fighting a war, you know.
Wow. Oh, I look forward to
All
that
3
one.
books will be in the same time period. And
So,
so it'll be all of them are experiencing the same event, but 3 separate books. So that'll be really fun.
oh, interesting. So instead of being like back to back, they're going to be like along the
It'll be
same.
like some events will overlap.
Yeah, that's the word I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah.
Oh, that sounds interesting.
Yeah.
So
I've done it
and
before.
okay. And
I did it with the World War II series, an 8-book series. So it was 8 POVs of the same event.
wow. Oh, I'm gonna
Yeah.
have to look that one up.
That
So
one was kind of crazy too.
yes, and I'm gonna tell the audience what I told you. This is the first book of Haley's I've ever read. So I don't know all her other books. So those of you that are watching and yelling at me, that's why. I'm learning fast though. So yes, so it's good writing. So interesting that 3 books like that. And then the 4th one is due out in 2023 then?
Right. It'll be sometime in March or April of 2020.
Okay.
What are we in now? 2022, 2023.
All I have to do is remember it's Tuesday, not Monday.
But it's Tuesday of a holiday week, so all day long I was thinking it's like when my kids were doing school, it was like, why is there a blank Monday on your calendar? Oh, today's Tuesday. We didn't have school yesterday.
It's a Tuesday that feels like a Monday that just, it's all, I always hate those Tuesdays. I enjoy the day off. Don't get me wrong. I'll take it every day or every week, but it throws me all off. I've just spent the whole day trying to go, it's Monday, Tuesday. So don't ask me what year it is this week. So
yeah.
So
and plus we're blocking off like an entire 2-year time period of time.
That is always fascinating to me for readers, or excuse me, that's me, writers like you guys. You work on something for 2 years, and then we get our hands on it, and 3 days later, I loved your book.
Yeah, I have to like go back and remember. I have to have a cheat sheet of character names because I'm bad with the name on a good day, and I have a really bad habit of switching the name of a character in the middle of a book, which makes it even harder. My husband is my first wave of edits, and one of the things he knows to look for is where did she swap a name. So, with these books, one of the books he had just had surgery, and the book there wasn't any way for him to do his part of it first. Like it had to go to Revell first and then come back to me, and then he got his hands on it. And so it's like I get this email from the editor, and she's like, did you know that you changed the name after spelling it differently like 3 times and it's a completely different name? And I was like, oh, right. I might should have warned you. So whenever I'm talking about a book, I honestly, I have a cheat sheet with names right in front of me so that I don't sound like an idiot.
I'm sorry, that's adorable. I have to admit, I was the first chapter too, where you're getting used to the nicknames. Everybody's got a nickname. And I'm like, wait, go back. Who was he?
Yeah. I almost needed
The
a
only one
cast
I
of
could-
characters.
Yeah, I see. No wonder you can't get the name right. You give them 2 different names, and it's you're just not fair to yourself. Because the only one I kept getting right was Rick. And this happens real early, so if you haven't read the book, don't yell at me. Where he protests that his nickname is Daddy. I just thought that was it's the only one I could remember.
Right.
So the questions have been rolling in here while you and I are goofing off and wondering if it's Monday or Tuesday. And I'm just going to go in order. And so we'll go from there. And if they build on each other a little bit, I'll try to get pair them together. And this is a question I was going to ask you before we went on our little rabbit trail is, where does the passion for military themed books come from? And that I know you have. Go ahead.
So I'm an Army brat. I was very nearly born in a helicopter above Nuremberg, Germany. My
Wow.
mom was always mad at me because it was her first helicopter ride, and the medic who was holding my head wouldn't let her look out the window. And I was an Army brat my whole life. My dad retired from the military when I was 28 years old. And
wow.
so
How many years?
I went to high school at Fort Benning, Georgia. And so my dad was an airborne ranger and very much a leader, and 6'4", 220 pounds, and just made me love men who are men. I love men who are men. So, and then I met my husband right after 9/11, and he had deployed with the 101st Airborne in the first Gulf War, and after 9/11 re-enlisted with the 20th Special Forces Group. And so I'm a war bride. We met in January, we were married in June, and he deployed in September.
Wow.
And with 20th Group, and he's still in the military. We live on Fort Knox.
Nice.
And so I have raised 3 Army brats, and I love the personalities of the people that choose to join the military, and the type of love for fellow man that puts them in the front of any kind of danger. Like, I will step in front of you and protect you because that's the heart that God has given me. And I love that. I love that type of personality. And I have always been drawn to people like that. And I have such great respect for the men and women who serve our country. I just absolutely love them.
And I agree. My husband was in the Corps when we got married too. And the hardship of Beaufort, South Carolina for 2 years, it was terrible.
I love South Carolina.
I do too. Grandparents were in Michigan, or we probably would have been in South Carolina the rest of our lives. But yeah, and I agree that manly man that will protect you and yet respect you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you write them very well.
Thank you. It's always been my culture, and the small amount of time when I was outside of the military, it was the actual culture shock. Like, what do you mean this is not what people think and how they act, and what does that mean? And so when we moved to Fort Knox, my husband and I, he's also a military brat. His dad was with 82nd Airborne when he retired, and when we moved here the first night, like the Blackhawks go over our house from the airfield. It's like right behind us, and it was like, we're home. We've come home.
Yeah, they would have dog fights over Beaufort, and we'd have people come and visit, and they're all like this, and I'm like, oh, sorry, I forgot to warn you.
Yeah, the house rattles with artillery, by the way. That's nothing.
Yeah, you get used to it. You just don't put a lot of glass on the wall.
Right. Yeah.
So Oh, this is a good question. When did you know you wanted to be an author?
Oh, I have a story. Yeah.
Oh, good. We love
Yeah.
stories.
So, I did not ever plan to be an author. I was like an avid reader, avid. The kind of reader that had a book in my purse and a book in my car and a book in my desk at work, just in case the phone didn't ring for a minute. And I'm going to date myself.
That's all right.
Y2K happened, and the world redid all their computer systems in preparation for Y2K. And so my office got all new computers, and my boss gave me a computer, and it was the first time I had a computer at home, and I was, 28 years old. So I plugged it in, turned it on. It was December of 1999. And on New Year's Eve that night, or I guess early mornings of the first, I had this dream. And it was this very vivid dream that it connected to a country song I had heard by Toby Keith. I didn't even remember, something about sunglasses and not knowing some girl's name or something. And I woke up in the middle of the night and started typing. And 6 weeks later, I had a full-length novel. And I thought, that was weird. That'll never happen again. And it was like the ideas floodgate just opened in my brain. And suddenly, like, it actually took me a couple of years to learn how to like quiet it, to control it, to just kind of crack it open when I need an idea real quick. And I could not write fast enough. And in 2 years, I wrote 10 books.
Wow.
And that was the beginning.
That
So that
is
book that I wrote in that 6 weeks is my book, A Melody for James. And
okay. So now
so
we're
it's
gonna
my
all
very
run
first
out and buy
book.
one.
Yeah. I sent it blindly to my mom. Like, no one knew I was writing. I was getting up every morning at 4 and just writing until I had to get ready for work. And my mom called me at work one day after I sent her like 3/4 of it. And she said, "This is your mother. You need to quit your job, go home and finish that book." I was like, wow. My mom was an avid reader too. So that was kind of cool.
That's good. That's a good review on a book.
Yeah.
So, and like you said, it's 39 books later.
Yeah.
So in what is that? 22 years. Wow.
Well, yeah, I wrote the 10 and then I didn't write for a long time. I got divorced and I got remarried and had new babies and a deployed husband. And after our youngest son slept through the night for the first time, my husband was in Afghanistan actually, and he called me and he said, "It's time, get your books out, time to get published." And so that was in 2011. So my first book I published in March of 2012.
Now, are you, other than Revell, are you with other publishers? Or are you basically doing all the work, self-pubbing?
Yeah, all of my books were self-published. We started a publishing company, Olivia Kimball Press. Okay. And so my husband has published several of the authors, dozens.
Wow.
But I consider myself indie published. The first 35, 36 books I wrote were all.
What am I on now?
I know. So my first one was March of 2012. And then in 10 years, I did 35 books.
That is amazing. That's a lot of work because you did all the work.
I did. So. And I became a USA Today bestseller, and it was like on my own, which is kind of fun. Yeah. And now I'm really like the whole work with Revell. It was like I used to have a little Jiffy store and now I'm working for the corporate headquarters of, Winn-Dixie. The differences, there's differences and there's similarities, but the differences are kind of extreme, and it's been the best experience. I mean, I hope it has been for them too, but it's been just the best experience to learn and watch and observe and see how they do things and how they work and the order of everything. And I love it. It's wonderful.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm sure that to be honest with you, I'm sure some of them are listening. They'll be glad to hear that. So I am glad too. I love that you're part of our little Baker family. So
thank you.
Yeah. So let's see. Well, we touched on this, and I think this is an easy answer for you. Do you plan on doing in-person events anytime soon?
I will do an in-person event wherever you want me. Ask me to come and I will be there.
There you go. And it just didn't work out timing wise right now. And there's a long story behind that, and you can join her newsletter. So, oops, that one we did ask. Now this is a little bit longer. So there's a little bit of story with it. So bear with me here. I'm a wife of a retired U.S. Air Force captain, and I love that you honor the military. SC was my favorite place to visit, South Carolina, or to live, excuse me. Where in South Carolina were you stationed? You can answer that there. We have 3 grown children born in 3 different states. We moved 25 times. How many different times how many times did you, I think she means places. How many places did you live in with your dad and your husband? Do you know how many different bases you were on?
So my husband is not active duty. He's in the National Guard. And so we haven't had to move. We've moved from Florida to Kentucky and inside Kentucky to Fort Knox, but not with the military. But with my dad, I've lived in, well, I'll just go in order. Germany, California, Washington, Oregon, Florida, Georgia, New York. And then I married my ex-husband, California, Florida, and then Kentucky.
Wow. So you're at 10. Yeah, that's a lot. That's a lot on families, is that moving. So,
you know, I always enjoyed it. I really did. And one of the reasons is because I have like a hyper intelligent brother who's a year older than me. And in every single school I was in, I would have his teachers the next year, and I was Jim's sister. And I promise you, I'm a lot of things, but hyper intelligent is not one of them. It would be like this. Within a week or two, there'd be this letdown of disappointment, and oh, you're not Jim. So every time we moved for an entire year, I wasn't Jim's sister. And then the next year would come and I would be Jim's sister again. And honestly, I think that's what it was. But
yeah, we gotta move again.
Yeah. So South Carolina, my husband's family hails from South Carolina. His mother is from Bishopville, mother and father from Bishopville.
Yeah.
And he has family in Columbia, which is outside of Fort, names. I don't remember.
Yeah.
And now it's going to bother me. It's going to come to me in the middle of another story.
Okay, that's all right. Just blurt it out. We'll all go, okay.
Yeah, that's the one. So I keep waiting for my watch to buzz with my husband texting me the name. But Fort Jackson, thank you.
There we go.
There it is.
He's online. Good for him.
So but we love South Carolina. It's on our list of where do we want to retire, and South Carolina is definitely at the top.
Yeah, and we've been back to visit Beaufort, and then we used to go to Savannah and Charleston, so we've visited up and down the coast a couple different times, and we keep going back, and it's just so much fun. So yeah, it's a beautiful state. So here's an interesting question, and if you have already, say that too. Are you thinking about addressing PTSD in any of your books?
I do a little bit in the third one.
Okay.
But not Hollywood-esque, right?
Okay.
So I'm very careful to never fall into the Hollywood trap with my characters. And so if I'm going to have a character with PTSD, it's going to be extremely realistic. And so in my World War II series I wrote, I have the 7th book is the pilot, and her brother has pretty severe PTSD. And and it's handled in the way that it would be handled back then. You know, it's accepted and ignored, and you know, you work around them. And then in the 3rd book, in Honor's Refuge, he has PTSD, but he's lost a leg, and so his career is over, and there's a lot of emotion in that too. And so it's not PTSD as much it is just general disgust and anger at God, because here I am.
Yeah.
So if I do in any sense, it will always be I'm never going to fall into the Hollywood trap with it.
And that's good. And you know, I've read books that are written that way or have some, and whether it's PTSD or another topic that are, like you said, Hollywood covered, it just doesn't ring true.
Yeah.
You know,
it's a trope.
Yeah.
It's a trope, and it's a stereotype. And, you know, I know that stereotypes exist because there's enough of something that feeds it, but I'd rather not be tropish.
Right. And you still, you have that because there's that little grain of truth,
Mhm.
but everybody's different. So, this is similar, but these are all different. Otherwise, because if you make them anyways. So I agree with you. So, and
I
your
remember
husband wants,
watching The Martian. Did you see The Martian with
yes. Oh, love that movie
right,
with that guy.
Matt. Good Will Hunting. Was
Yes.
he Good Will
Yeah.
Hunting? Okay,
Yeah.
anyway, Jason's here.
Somebody will put it in the chat for us.
Greg is here. We got him. He's got us.
Yeah.
So, Matt Damon. But
Yep. Good job.
I loved the end of that movie because he wasn't broken. And I was like, a man who would survive that and the way that he survived it, even after everything, he's not going to be broken. And at the end, he wasn't. Like, he looks down, there's a flower, he thinks it's cool because he's where flowers grow again. And that's the end of the movie. And I didn't read the book, but I assume the book ended similarly. And it was a relief not to have him be like this broken shell of a man after the survival of the trauma.
You are absolutely correct. I agree with that. And I think that's why I love the movie so much that, you get to the end and we went through this, but we're going to be okay. Are we going to be perfect all the time? No, but we're going to be okay.
Right.
And and I think about it now that we've gone on a rabbit trail, and we'll bring it around to where we're supposed to be talking so people can join our conversation.
My book, not someone else's.
Yeah, your book and a movie. And where have you been on vacation? But anyways, I think that's why your book, your characters grab me so, because of their normalcy. Cynthia had, well, for lack of a better word, is baggage with her. She was where she was for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't the first thing she blurted out to everybody. I'm the way I am because of this.
Right.
She kept it, and she was still working through it. She knew that. But so I like that. So you hit the nail on the head with that, The Martian. That was a good movie too. If you haven't seen it, see it. It's worth it every minute.
But read my book first.
Oh yes, during commercials. So we do have more questions. Somebody would like to know, what research did you do for Honor Bound? See, they do want us to talk about the book.
Yeah, it took a lot of research. I had to research like the way missionaries work inside countries and how those work. I had to research I had to build a world in a fictional country. There's nothing easy about that, because then because I have inside that book, I'm dealing with the president of the country and his family and their security system and their politics. And then the United States politics, like, does the vice president's daughter need Secret Service? I didn't know the answer to that question. And it certainly wasn't easy to find. You'd think it would be there somewhere. But the military, I went with my instinct and what I wanted to happen. And then I let Greg say, okay, that's not realistic. That's Hollywood. And he would fix it. And then I would take it and say, okay, I'm going to tone down the military a little bit because it's not, and put it back in my voice. And then what we had was this great package. In the end, it was just this great package of really realistic characters, which is always my goal. I mean, if you go through, read the reviews of my books, realistic is always what's coming up about my characters. And I want people to think about my characters and wonder how they're doing, right? And if they're not three-dimensional, if they're not realistic, then they're never going to think of them again. And I want them on their minds. And so so that's always my goal. But also I never want anything to be something that pulls someone out of a suspension of disbelief. So if it's not going to happen realistically in the military, I don't want that to be what one of my characters does or how they act or how their leadership would react. I want it to always be realistic. And so I had to make sure that all of the military was spot on too. So
well, it sounds like
digging into the special forces was a lot of fun. I
I
enjoyed
bet.
that research. Yeah. I have like inside my Scrivener on my research section, I have like pages and pages and pages of like special forces stuff.
So I gotta ask on the vice, because I wondered about this when I was reading about the vice president's daughter and different things that were discussed. Is this stuff you find online, or do people like, no, you can't know that, so stop researching it and you kind of,
Right. Yeah. I don't know. I mean,
oh, yeah,
I found it online, but then like I always source it like 3 different ways. Okay. So I found an
okay,
answer here. Now let me go here and let me go here. And I'm thankful to have the ability to reach out to people, you know, like we have people that we know who work for Homeland Security, and we
okay,
have people who know who are federal marshals, and we have people who know who are in the Treasury Department. And so I have access to people to like make a phone call and say, this is for a book. What would happen in this scenario? And so
okay.
I'm really thankful for that. My husband has, because of what he does for a living, it has like a wide net of people to tap. So
Interesting. And see, that is good use of that too. So,
yeah.
so what fun, because sometimes I've often wondered, when you're talking to somebody that writes a contemporary, even though yours are romantic suspense, it's contemporary. How much do you research? And turns out a lot. So,
Well, you never know what you don't know until you try to write it.
okay, that's good.
And so I have a tendency to just keep going, and I'll put a bracket saying, what kind of gun would he use? And and in the prequel to this series, I have my special forces team takes a ship, right? And I was like, my bracket was however they would take the ship. I don't even know. But I didn't want to stop. So then Greg comes to me and he's like, all right, tell me what you see in your head, and then I'll try to tell you how they'll do it.
Was it close in your head?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah.
Okay, good.
Yeah, because it's like a movie in my head. I mean, I know what I see. I just don't know if it's realistic or not.
I have to admit, I'm not sure what I would see in my head would make any sense either. So your husband would probably just shake his head at me. So we'll just leave it at that. So, okay, hold on. I'm going to do this because it's getting dark in my room, and these are brand new, so bear with me. Oh, here's a good one. What's your writing process like? When writing a series, do you know from beginning to end how these series will end? Or does each character, change throughout the series? So that's a good question. I like that. I was one I was thinking about too. So.
That's a great question. So I have 2 kinds of series. One would be, here's these books in this series and it's going to end at the end of it. Or I have what's called my Red Blood and Bluegrass series, which is a small town in Kentucky, in a fictional town in Kentucky that will forever and ever be a series. Like until I get tired of writing, I'm going to put people into that town. And in fact, Captain Rick Norton from Honor Bound is from that town. And so,
okay, good. I was going, wait, I heard that name.
So that town will always have books coming out of it, just because I can't stop thinking about it and they're there. So, but like the Love and Honor series, here is the idea of the series and here are the books that are my idea. And I had 5 books that were my idea, and Revell wanted 3 of them. And so I put one as a prequel and I'll put one at the end, and that will wrap up that series. And no one will feel like there's something left hanging at the end of it. But, now my next series that I have plotted out, and it's fully plotted. I have 3 books fully plotted, and it'll be the beginning. It'll start it with an event and it will end at the end of that event, and the 3 books will all conclude and it will be done. So it just depends on the type of series.
So your series need to be read in order almost every time.
Not the Love and Honor series. Well, I don't know.
Okay.
Like I wrote them in order. The events happen. So the next series will have to be read in order.
Okay.
Well, you'll know, so you're missing something. I mean, each story will conclude. But someone reviewed the second book in this series already and said that she didn't feel like anything was missing.
Oh, interesting.
The second book. So
that's good to know, because I do get asked that.
with all the same characters,
Right,
but nothing, it's not like this story ends, Honor Bound ends.
Yep.
And then Word of Honor begins and it's a new story.
right. And it's you've moved forward in time.
Right. I think
Okay.
a year. I don't remember.
Yeah. We're not going to hold you to that. We're not going to remember if it's a
I've
year or
slept
not
since then.
anyways.
Lord, I've written
it's
3
still
books
Monday,
since then.
Tuesday. So, okay, more questions. So sorry about the glasses, but I was laughing at myself because I had to get readers and then I'm like, oh, I should have got these months ago. I can read again. If one of your books or series were made into a movie or even a TV show now, do you have people chosen who you'd like to have play parts?
No. I don't.
Okay.
My husband is watching something, SEAL Team 6,
Hold on.
I think. I'm not sure. And there's a character on there and I said, oh, that's Jorge. And Greg said, he's black. And I said, no, that's Jorge. Who's, Mexican, but similar hair and similar beard and similar skin coloring. So that guy could play Jorge, whoever he is. I don't know.
So he says he's watching SEAL Team.
Oh, okay. It's a name.
Yep.
So he also said to tell you about my Lego men.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that next.
So bad with names. So I write 12 men taking a ship or, 12 men storming a building or, whatever it may be. And I kept flipping my names because then it would be the nickname and not, it'd be Pot Pie and then Swanson's over here, but Swanson and Pot Pie are the same person. So Greg made me Lego men that have flags that say who they are. Here's
That is
Selah.
awesome.
Right? There's Selah. And so then I have a whole bag of Lego men. They all have names. There's Osborne.
Oh, I love Osborne.
And now I can set up my attack and I can see exactly who's next to whom. And I don't mix up their names anymore. And it's brilliant.
Your books are going to be turned into Lego movies.
Yes. Oh my gosh, Lego, listen here.
Yeah, look at that. She's
I
got
should
the
make some
script
stop
written.
motion videos.
That'll be the next video we release here is the stop action of Haley's books.
Yeah, right.
Oh, that's awesome. I love them. Thank you, Greg, for asking that question. It's always scary when husbands join in because you never quite know what they're going to ask. So, oh, this is an interesting question. I need to read the last part of it here. Sorry. I still forget to put them on. Could you describe your editing tricks / process?
Sure.
So I'm assuming, when you get your edits back and or beforehand, because like you said, your husband reads it and stuff.
So I actually teach a class on my process. So after my book is written, when it says, so I write in layers. And so like my first layer is just action dialogue.
Okay.
She walked in the room and said this and she walked out of the room. And so there's no emotion or it's just, I'm just like doing almost like a script, like what's in my head, like that movie that's playing in my head. I'm really, really quickly typing it out.
Interesting.
And then I go in and I layer in different, so thoughts, and then I go back in and from the beginning to the end, like I'm not doing a chapter at a time, I'm doing the whole book at a time. Feelings. And then I go in and I set the scene because I'm really lazy and that's like the hardest part for me. And I don't think that way. So I have to like go look at pictures and build my rooms and clothing and stuff because that's not how. And so that's the last thing I do. And then I have like, I have a book I've been through like 6 times by the time I'm done with it. And so then I run a spell check and grammar check in 3 different word processors and Scrivener, then WordPerfect, and then Word. Word is the final one. And then it's in Word. And then I do a search for every passive verb. So I do a search for the word was. There's a lot of was's in 100,000 word novel, I promise. And then if it's not inside dialogue, I examine each use of a passive verb and determine if I can make the sentence or the paragraph stronger or more active. And so I do that with all the is, are, was, were, be, being, and been. And then I read it out loud. And then I search for, while I'm reading out loud, I'm listening for weak modifiers, for poorly worded sentences, there's all these different things I'm listening for, because I'm doing it with a different part of my brain. As I speak and as I listen, those are different parts of the brain from reading. And I catch so much more. And at that point, when I'm done with that, then I hand it to Greg, who is my first line editor. And then it went to Revell, and there was like 2 more editors and a ton of proofreaders that got it after that. 2 or 3 more editors, I'm not sure. But on my indie side, it would go to Greg and then 1 other editor.
Okay. Yeah, and I agree. And I think each book and each editor at Revell, Bethany at Baker, works differently. And so I couldn't help you on how many editors and.
Well, I know
proofreaders
how many I worked with. I just don't know how many had their hands in it.
Right. Yeah.
Because there'd be
And
different names in the notes, in the
Oh,
markups.
Yep.
Whatever that's called. There would be different names. And so I don't know what it was, but I really enjoyed it. I was like stressed about, like, the editing process really stressed me out, because I was talking to someone who's really, really, really well known, lots and lots of books, and only traditionally published ever. And he was like, I always forget to work in the editing time into my schedule. And I was like, what kind of editing time should I have worked into my schedule? Because my schedule is really tight. And so when everything came back, I was like, oh, well, that was easy.
Yeah.
Well, that was easy. that wasn't
But
hard at all.
You have edited yourself for so many years.
Yeah.
Whereas
And I
there
mean,
are
it's not like
authors-
my first book. Yeah.
Yeah. And there are authors that send very raw things to their editors, and it doesn't matter which publishing house either. It's just, and then they build the book up as their editors work on it with them. So
Right.
everybody has a little, and everybody's just a little different that way. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, so, okay. Now, and by the way, are you teaching that class at ACFW, if I may ask, or is there something else you're teaching?
At ACFW, I am teaching, it'll touch on it because it's called Be the 10%, which stems from the idea that agents and editors say that of all of the submissions that they get, only 10 to 20% of them are even editable for
Interesting.
publication. And so you need to,
Yeah.
as an indie author, you need to be in that 10% and not in that 90%. And so it's called Be the 10%. And so part of it is like that deep dive edit that I do. There's other things that are involved in that class. And then I'm teaching, well, Greg is teaching with me metadata, which is about building the metadata inside the ebook.
Yeah. Oof. That's probably more than I would ever think of learning. There's a lot. It's always fascinating to me because, talking to you authors, and it's, this and this and this, and then you talk to the publishers, and it's this and this and this, and then you talk to somebody else, and it's just, it takes a lot to publish a book. It really does.
Yeah.
So anybody listening that's going to ACFW, there's a couple classes you're going to want to make sure are on your schedule. So at least especially that Be the 10%. So now, if you were going to give any advice to wannabe authors, what is that one thing, that you would like to say to them? Even if it was like me, I'm not thinking of being an author, but what would you say to encourage me?
So I wrote my first book with no understanding of anything except what I liked in the story. And as an avid reader, I understood pacing and I understood just an organic way, but without any kind of real education. I understood that and it went in there, but I mean, that first book really took a lot of work to bring it to publication. So, but the point is that I wrote it, right? I didn't worry about rules or expectations, or God put a story in my heart and I wrote it and I got it done, and the education came later. And so I think that if you are a follower of Christ and you have a desire to write, then that's not an accident. And that if God has called you to write, he's going to equip you to do it. And not the only thing that's going to keep it from being written is you not writing. Anything can be fixed, but it needs to be done first.
I like that. I like that. Thank you. That's very interesting. Somebody wants to know what's the most difficult part in your writing process.
Other than doing a search for all the passive verbs.
I have to admit, as fast as you rattle them off, I'm going, oh yeah. Cold.
I have
'Cause I-
homeschool, right? This is sitting on my
Yeah.
desk from my son. It's like all of the passive verbs written down for his test that he took the other day.
I need to come to your school.
What's the most difficult part? I think that once I get the story out, the hard part for me is adding the thoughts and feelings into the action in a way that doesn't, let me not say this backwards. I want to show, not tell. And
Okay.
that's hard for me because
Okay.
I feel like the action has told you everything you need to know. I shouldn't have to write thoughts and feelings, but apparently editors don't agree. And so you have to go back in and add them, but you have to add them in a way that no one knows that you're telling them. So that's hard. And that takes I have to stop and think. I guess that's the way it is, because everything else I just do. And this is where I have to stop and say, okay, how do I do this? How do I do it well? How do I incorporate the environment to show more? Yeah, show, not tell. So how do I incorporate the environment to show more of an emotion instead of just saying she was sad? Let's add some mist and maybe some rain, whatever. I don't know.
Yeah. And no, that makes sense. So I loved your answer, though. I don't know why you need me to tell you this, but I'm going to. I was telling you the best
the cup
answer.
down. You ought to know he's mad. I shouldn't have to tell you.
He's stomping around. Come on, what else is?
What do you need? What else do you want?
That's probably why I like your characters. I think that all the time. How could you not know what she's saying? Good heavens, man.
Can you not hear the sarcasm when you hear the voice? Come on.
I'm going to use a different font for sarcasm. Oh boy, I think that we are reaching the end of our tolerance. So, okay, one question I always like to ask, and I know we discussed it a little bit, is of all the authors, living, dead, I don't care who, would you like to have supper with?
Oh. This is not the answer you're expecting.
Okay, good.
I think, and I was actually thinking about this today. That's so weird that you asked that question, because I would love to have a conversation with Laura Ingalls Wilder.
Oh, interesting.
I would love to sit down and talk with her, because one of the things, like my mom got me the box set of her books Christmas, my third grade year. I had Farmer Boy done, like all the first 3 books read by Christmas dinner. Right. And I've read that box set, I'm not kidding, probably 100 times. And These Happy Golden Years, probably 200 times. Like, it's my favorite. And one thing that fascinates me is that she died in the 60s, which meant that she lived through World War II and technology and she lived in a house with a telephone, and she could watch Andy Griffith on the television. I mean, that's not the person that I grew up reading. And I just I just wish I could have a conversation with her, number one, about Almanza Wilder, who is like the best romance hero ever. And number two, I would just love to hear her talk about the difference in like when she was 20 versus when she was 50. Like, I would love to hear what her thoughts are, because it's such a huge difference. Like from when I was 20 to now when I'm 50, there's some differences, but it's not this massive difference. And for her, it was massive, you know, and I would just love to know her thoughts about that, because she had a really great way of spelling out her thoughts and bringing you into her perspective.
Yeah, I agree. I hadn't thought of that, because I always thought I'd like to talk to her just to hear her stories again. But that, I like that perspective, because I, like you, my grandma gave me all the books, like one for my birthday and one for Christmas, however many years it was for that set. You know, so, and my favorite is still The Little House in the Big Woods. Who knows why? That
Maple
maybe
candy,
because
maple candy.
yes, yes. There were a couple other things that I think about now, when like they butchered the pig and they played with the bladder, and I'm like, ah. And as this kid, I'm going, oh, that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I like that perspective. You're right. I didn't expect that answer. So thank you for sharing with that. And as we're wrapping up here, you have mentioned book number 2 comes out the first Monday of where are we? October.
October 4th. I have a cheat sheet. Yeah.
Good, because I'm assuming it's a Tuesday. So that book follows a couple of the characters, and all of the characters are in that book, or is it more, you know?
All of the characters are in that book.
Okay.
That are still alive.
Yep. We're not gonna tell you who that is.
And it's about, see, I didn't have it ready with names. Let me think.
That's all right.
His nickname is Drumstick.
I love Drumstick.
And FBI agent Linda Coulter. Sanders, see Greg to the rescue. Bill Sanders and Linda Coulter, who were college sweethearts, and he crushed her heart under his boot. And then the FBI is on a joint operation with DOD and Homeland Security, and they have to infiltrate a mosque undercover, and he's paired with her as her husband after his teammate Ibrahim, who is Muslim, goes down with appendicitis. Bill's the only person on the team who could pass as a Muslim, and so they put him as her husband, and so they have to spend a great deal of time together in a hotel room as a married couple, and in a mosque as undercover agents searching for eco-terrorists who are blowing up oil pipelines all over the world.
That's not good. Then gas is $5 a gallon, and I don't like that.
They're not helping.
No.
A timely book. So right. So that was really fun. That was fun to write, because there's a whole lot of tension there.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Like I said, I haven't had a chance to read it yet. So there's a quick question that came in that I like it, is what is your favorite genre to read?
I love to read middle 20th century detective mysteries written by men in first person male.
That's very niche.
Well, it's what I can read. My editing brain doesn't try to write the book if it's if it's written by a man and in male first person, there's nothing there for me. So I can just like shut down and enjoy the story. So my favorite author in that genre is Rex Stout. I love anything I can get my hands on in that, with that style though. I also enjoy all of Tom Clancy's old books. The old ones before he started using pen names or whatever, not pen names, ghostwriters. And I love reading cookbooks written prior to 1950. I read them cover to cover.
So, and then I'm going to ask, just because we have a couple minutes yet, do you do the recipes too, or do you just enjoy reading about them?
my go-to cookbook was written in 1950
Perfect.
because
Is it
it
Betty
was,
Crocker?
huh?
Is it Betty Crocker?
Yeah. Yeah.
Really? That
Yeah.
was my mom's cookbook.
It's see, the reason I like it is because there's store-bought things, right?
Yep.
But and kitchen equipment, but no modern concepts of health and fad in it. It's just food.
Yep.
You know, and if it takes half a cup of butter, it takes half of a cup of butter, and I don't have to, you know,
I don't have
pretend
to
that that's not
justify it.
healthy.
I love
So
that.
anyway,
And
that's always been my go-to. And I have cookbooks that go back into the 1800s. Those are hard to read. I don't need to know how to dress a squirrel. I've done it, but I don't need it in my cookbook. So I will read them. I'll read all the introductions. I'll read the introduction to all the recipes. I read all of the little, I love it.
Interesting. I love that. So where can we find your books besides bakerbookhouse.com and this bookstore, of course?
So all of my books are on halliebridgman.com. And from there, find a book and you can either buy it from me or you can find all the links to all the places where you can buy it.
Sounds perfect. Do you have a newsletter you can sign up for?
I do. So it's halliebridgman.com/newsletter. And if you sign up for my newsletter, then you get the prequel to the Love and Honor series, Love in Any Language, for free. And
Ooh.
it's the story of Jorge and Emma. Emma is an Afghan native, and she is a translator for the Special Forces team, and Jorge is their intelligence officer. And so that
And
was a really
she's a
fun
good character.
Yeah,
So I have to
that
go
was a
read those.
great, those were great characters to write. I really like them. Yeah.
Yeah, there was that. You have to use a different font. There was a little bit of sarcasm in that answer. Yeah, I like those two. They were a lot of fun. So, well, thank you very, very much. This has been very fun, but also very enlightening. I have learned a lot about your writing, about your characters, and about you, which is
I
always
enjoyed it.
interesting to me. So
Thanks,
thank you
Chris.
for joining us, and thank you, audience, for joining us. And some of these great questions you handed in tonight. That was a lot of fun. So we look forward to seeing you again soon, and we will talk to you later.
Yes.
Bye, all.
Bye. Thank you.